Hello, wealth catchers. Welcome back to the channel. Definitely glad to have you guys back. Hope you guys been having a great week so far. So, as you can tell by the title of the video, we're going to be doing kind of a deep dive into Microsoft through this AI model lens, right? So, obviously, you've been paying attention to market news. You know that headlines have come out saying that Apple is suing OpenAI over some things like trade secrets and things of that nature. And if you are aware, you know that Microsoft and OpenAI have that relationship. Microsoft has a significant stake in OpenAI, even though over the past, year and a half, 2 years, their relationship publicly has been pretty rocky, right? So me, especially with my son being invested in Microsoft, right? We have a reasonable stake in there. I took it as like, I wonder how does this affect Microsoft, right? Based off of its relationship with OpenAI. And that kind of led me to thinking, how does this lawsuit affect them? And also, if you've been paying attention to OpenAI, Sam Altman, the news has not been getting better for them over time, right? Even IPO is now pushed back, I believe, to 2027. It was supposed to be this year. So we still see SpaceX IPO'd, and they're making their AI type play with their situation or their Elon. Elon has beef with Sam, so he's definitely taking shots at him now. This opportunity. You see other names like Anthropic. Looks like they're still set to IPO on time. And then I just saw today, DeepSeek looks like they're going to IPO later this year. So far, the person in the company that started off the whole this frontier model war and Runway, it looks like they're going to be late to the party in terms of IPOing for the market for retail investors. So, want to do a dive into Microsoft, right? Just to see how they are slated in this, because as we know, Microsoft doesn't have its own frontier model. They kind of were riding the coattails of OpenAI with Copilot and things of that nature. So, definitely leave a like, comment, subscribe. What are your thoughts on Microsoft? Are you bullish on them? How do you think they're going to fare out? Because obviously we know they've been tanking the past year, 2 years. They have definitely not been uh, a good investment to hold on to. If that was your only position, they definitely have been in the red. But obviously, over here that we're doubling down on it. We are bullish on them. So let's dive into it. So again, we're looking at Microsoft the wrong way, right? So why Microsoft doesn't need the best AI model to win. So again, Apple's lawsuit against OpenAI has investors asking what happens to Microsoft. Again, that's what got my mind rattling, got me thinking, how are they suited in the situation? How do they stand in this situation, right? Especially this was kind of like their way into the AI models in terms of the frontier models, right? The LLMs and things of that nature. This was kind of like Microsoft's in. So this is how most of us are thinking about it, right? Both best AI model, winning company, which obviously is going to lead to a winning stock, right? But what if that's the wrong framework to look at it, right? What if AI becomes a multi-model world? And when this question came about and this thesis came about, I was like, that makes complete sense, because even me in my own workflows, I don't rely on just one AI tool. So from running my website to creating content for YouTube to article generation, all those type of things, right? Even the graphics I come up with for my Instagram stories, things of that nature, I use multiple tools, right? I jump over from Chat GPT to Gemini. I use Claude Code a ton and regular Claude, right? Claude Desktop. So I'm someone that operates within that productivity environment of using multiple AI tools, right? So that's where Microsoft is going to shine. It doesn't need one of them to be successful. It just needs all of them to be able to be good enough. And then at the end of the day, they become the winner. So for if Fortune 500 company, right, the organization, So this is how you can look at how, theoretically they would use these multiple tools. So Claude could be for software development, Chat GPT could be for writing and agents, Gemini is for multimodal tasks, and then companies are going to have their internal AI, right? So for sensitive company data, if you've been paying attention to Palantir, Alex Karp was kind of pounding the table on this about sensitivity and private data, right? Because these companies, they're not going to pour their internal documents over into Claude, Chat GPT, right? There's going to be a part of the market that's going to need their own internal documents and with their own AI that they have in-house that they can trust, right? So here we have 4 models, 4 different jobs, but most likely they're going to be underneath one enterprise, right? One company trying to do all this. So when you look at Microsoft, who manages identity, security, billing, monitoring, permissions, compliance, governance, and integration, right? So Microsoft, they have Azure Cloud, right? And we're going to dive into the other cloud businesses that we have too. Also, it's a competing space of cloud in general, but each of them do different things, right? So with Microsoft having Azure, they have all this within them, right? To be able to be an asset and also create that foundation for these frontier models. So Microsoft's AI strategy, right? Every product is a spoke. Azure is the hub they all run on. So we got Microsoft 365. Obviously, we grew up with that from way back. Me, I'm in my 30s. I'm a 90s kid. So way back then, we've had Microsoft 365, right? We know about that, Windows and all that. You got the apps, you got Teams, GitHub, security, Copilot, identity, all these things that we know Microsoft for, and also how they're running it through Azure. And this is again enterprise, right? It's pretty rare for you to go ahead and run into a company or work at somewhere that does not use Microsoft. Like it's almost damn near impossible for you to run into a company that isn't using them, right? So Microsoft isn't just selling AI; it's selling enterprise everything. So that's infrastructure, productivity, security, cloud, identity, integration. So it's enterprise AI is best way to label it and look at it. So every layer is just one vendor that's supplying all these layers. And then when we go into the ecosystems for the AI, and also you can look at cloud as well, right? So Microsoft, that's the enterprise ecosystem. Google, pretty much known for its research and data. And then Amazon's the cloud infrastructure where they got with the AWS. So they all compete, but not in the same way. So Microsoft, again, enterprise software, right? Google's research, Amazon is infrastructure. So again, this is where Microsoft kind of has its own lane. So Google, yeah, they're coming up with their own product in terms of the LLM with Gemini, but Google's suites of products very useful. People use Google Meets, people use Gmail, and all those things like that. But Google is nowhere near as integrated into an enterprise, right? Or into a company's workflow, into a company's foundation as Microsoft is, right? Again, pretty much every single company, they have office space, if they're remote, whatever case may be, they have multiple employees and a team. Mostly everybody is using Microsoft software to operate. People are doing their meetings on Teams. People are using the Microsoft ecosystem for everything, right? Yeah, you got Apple over there. People like to use the MacBook and all that type of stuff, but Microsoft so far has been the dominant force over the past few decades and also probably for the foreseeable future. And they might lose market share, but the fact that they have that foundational layer is going to make it easier for them to facilitate the AI, whoever ends up being in the lead or who's competing. It really doesn't matter. It's up to them to try to find a way to integrate that into their ecosystem to have these LLMs actually work out for the company's benefit. So Microsoft is the enterprise AI platform, not a bet on the best AI model. Again, because how we talked about my own personal use of using these workflows of using multiple frontier models, you've also been paying attention, if you've been paying attention to CNBC or the Schwab Network, these financial networks, when people are coming on and talking about these CEOs coming out talking about they are having an issue finding return on spend, right? All this CapEx spend, all this spend in terms of the LLMs or frontier models, they are spending so much money on these tokens that it has to be strategic about, hey, where am I going to get my yield at? Where's my return on these tokens, right? And then also, if you've been using these frontier models enough, you know that there's different models within there, right? Claude has its Opus, has now got Fable 5 is back. Same thing, I believe Meta's coming out with its own multiple variations you could change from. ChatGPT, we know they used to have ChatGPT 5.5, and then I think it was before that was like 4 something. All these weird and different names. Gemini has their different names and all that. Everything, when you click on it, it has this a little thing that says best used for quick tasks, best used for deep research, best used for this, right? So if the person in your enterprise isn't well versed, right, and they're just jumping in using the LLM, they're not knowing they're using Fable 5 to just ask a simple prompt question that they could have done with Opus, right, or even Sonnet. I'm not sure which one's better than the other one, but they could have used a lower tier model to get the same work done, but instead they went to the highest model to do work, which cost them more tokens, which in turns leads to more spend for the company, right? So these companies now are trying to figure out how we're going to efficiently get the token spend, right? For Microsoft, that's not the issue for them. It's going to be, hey, I gave you the platform. You guys have to figure out what AI model works best in your company, what mix works best for you guys, and how that situation goes. But Microsoft in the end could still win out. So again, back to highlight some of the key franchises that's underneath the banner, right? So Azure 365, the identity, cloud, enterprise security, and GitHub. So very strong businesses that's underneath the Microsoft banner that a lot of us know, we touch every day, we use every day. Someone like me, I use GitHub. It works in the background whenever I'm pushing something through Cloud Code. It's going to go through Vercel and GitHub. A lot of my automation workflows are going through GitHub. So a lot of these companies that Microsoft owns that we touch and use every day that we're not aware of. When you log into work with your credentials, that's identity, that's security. You're not thinking about those things because Microsoft is taking care of it in the background for you. So biggest lesson that we get from here is we're not just going to be asking who builds the smartest AI. That's kind of what the narrative has been, right? They want us thinking of the competing models with each other, but best to look at who owns the ecosystem where AI creates value, right? So far as of right now, who has the best ecosystem for AI to flourish in terms of touch points, endpoints, how many people it can affect, from businesses to end consumers to employees. Microsoft has that system, right? So it's based on the partnerships. It's based on how long these partnerships are going to run for, the depth these partnerships are, and basically, obviously, the value add, right, is going to fall on the shoulders of these LLMs, and then also how can Microsoft extract that value to the end consumer, to these companies, and to these employees, right? Because you have to win over all these people for this overall arching AI ecosystem to even work out, right? You gotta please the customer, you gotta please the employee, you gotta please the business, and you gotta meet productivity numbers. All these things have to make sense for this to work out. And the best company, again, who could deploy this to the masses in the most efficient way, probably because they already have the system set up. It's like having the roadways already built, is Microsoft. So that's going to round out for. I know it's a quick to the point video for it, but that was definitely something that caught my attention. about what's been going on with this whole OpenAI and Apple situation, and how someone could be caught like Microsoft in the crosshairs of the situation as a, you know, as a bystander. But just to show that even though it's been having a down year or two, negative returns, things of that nature, business model still hasn't changed, right? It's still a great company, still a great long term hold, still a great compounder over time. So it's at very favorable valuations right now. So it's a prime example of especially this quote here, right? The best investments are always the companies with the best technology. They're often the companies with the best business models. And again, look at Microsoft's business model and how it's able to affect on such a massive scale. You can't really beat that out, right? You can't really argue against that. So definitely appreciate you guys stopping by. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all those good things. And down in the bottom, obviously, we have a link to the website. Got the guides down below. Got some links to books, everything you need pretty much to help you along your investing journey. Definitely, we're here to help you, and definitely here to, assist you along the way and support your journey. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.